Because I'm absolutely cacking myself at the moment. 30 hours.
Yeah.
Like I've slept a lot today, but I feel like at some point I'm probably just going to fall asleep live on stream in this chair.
I mean, you might find a second wind at some point, but I reckon there's going to come a time when it's just like a bit like, runners talk about hitting the wall.
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen to you.
yeah,
I did a like 24-hour race before. I was driving and stuff,
yeah.
and that was it was fine for maybe like the first 16 to 18 hours, and then it suddenly hits you.
Mm. I'm hoping at some point, maybe about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, that I'll find that second wind. What will I be playing then? Probably be in and around Baldur's Gate, Pirate Warriors 4.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, like a lot of the games I've picked as well, like are very time consuming. Like the time disappears very quickly. Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I'm on Ultimate Team or in career mode, like that time just disappears. Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat, same thing happens.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you play like 4 or 5 games and all of a sudden like an hour and a half is gone and
yeah,
you're like, what?
yeah. Well, like when I'm playing career mode, it doesn't quite like because I skip a lot of games if I'm in the manager mode
Yeah.
or like so I'll just quick sim league matches, but I'll do the simulation for cup games.
Hmm.
So then, like, if we're losing, I can jump in and try and win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had some interesting experiences with that over the last few days. The highlights is still massively bugged, but we'll talk about that later when we talk about our update on FC24.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worries me. I've got a lot of V. I've got a lot of Prime, a lot of snacks because I think I think about every 2 hours I'm going to take a short break just to make sure that I've got everything, go to the toilet and all that, and then I think the biggest breaks I have are probably around 2 a.m, then about 8 a.m for some breakfast, and then about 12 o'clock for some lunch.
You want to be careful not to have sugar when you don't need it because you'll get a crash
Yeah,
after having sugar. So you want to save your like if you've got sugary snacks or whatever, save them for like when you really need them.
yeah,
And then they'll give you that extra boost
yeah.
and just let the caffeine do the long-term job.
I've got a few bits and pieces, so it's going to be interesting. I'm nervous. I'm excited, and yeah, done a bit of work to try and get this promoted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe could have done a little bit more, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's definitely going to be interesting,
It's going to be good viewing.
especially unless I fall asleep. Even then, you can just watch me sleep. That could be interesting in itself. See how many times I almost died due to my sleep apnea. All right. I thought this week we could talk about a few things. I think the first thing, the big news that came out this morning is Jim Ryan over at PlayStation is the CEO is going to retire next April as of April 1st. I've seen some interesting comments online about this. People saying that it's because of the things he's done during the FTC trial and all of this kind of crap, and it's just a load of, to put it bluntly, it's a load of bollocks. The guy lives in the UK, works in the US, and the amount of time he's been doing that, it's going to take strain on him and his family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so the absolute drizzle that I've read online about this over the past few hours is just absolute crazy. But
I think you see it. I think you see it every time these days that someone like retires or resigns. That people assume there must be some sort of ulterior
yeah,
motive,
exactly.
or some reason behind it. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's probably just that the job has taken a big toll on him over a number of years. It's probably a bit like that, Obama thing of like aging 20 years in two.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think Jim Ryan personally has been good for Sony, been good for PlayStation. We've got
He's overseen a long period of success,
yeah,
taking Sony from, probably being, I think it was the second best selling console in the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era, just
yeah,
to being well and truly
in
the
front.
best selling console in this era. So,
And what one comment I read online was that he likes to focus on third party games, and it's
yep.
like, have you not seen how big the exclusives have become under
Yeah,
Jim Ryan?
PlayStation Studio is massive now.
Like,
Because of
we've had some of
developers
the
and
biggest releases under his leadership that there's ever been.
yeah, yeah.
And they come thick and fast. Like, we're getting like 2 a year of these massive exclusives that just blow everybody away. So, people need to do their research a bit better, I think.
No,
On
I
that
think
one.
Sony are like riding the line pretty well of offering great exclusive titles while still having a big catalog of third party games that are on multiple platforms
Yeah,
and run really well on PlayStation. So
yep, definitely. And like we haven't found many that don't run too well.
not particularly, no. In fact, I can think of a number of games that that probably run smoother on PlayStation than they do on a more powerful PC.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's one thing that stood out to me that, I mean, it's probably a little bit off topic if I really think about it, and that was Payday. We gave our review of it last week, but a lot of people were saying that they were having issues with matchmaking. Now, we found a little bit of that last week when I was hosting and I was on Xbox. I've since downloaded it on PlayStation, and no issues at all.
yeah,
They did do an update over the last weekend, and that seemed to fix a lot of stuff. But then the company that they've partnered with for the matchmaking released their own update, and it screwed everything up again.
right.
So they are currently taking the game offline each day for a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
Won't impact the start of our stream, hopefully, by the time they've given. So I had no issues though when I was on there the other night on the PlayStation, so I can't see it being too much of an issue. I don't know if that's a PlayStation thing or whether that's just people have, they've kind of fixed the problem a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there has, as you said, there has been an update, so it could have just been that. And to be fair, we didn't really have matchmaking issues. We had an issue where it would occasionally kick someone out of the party, but that was it, really.
Yeah, so the problem with their matchmaking seems to be it doesn't matter whether or not you were trying to play solo or in a group or actually find people. Their system was matchmaking to find an open spot on their server, basically, to then allow
Right.
you to play the game. and
Yeah.
the issue was in that part of the matchmaking. So it was
Yes.
it
We
was
did have that at one
constantly
point, didn't we?
yeah
Where you were set to friends only and
yeah
it just popped a random in with us.
yeah yeah and kick someone out of the team at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. I forgot about that.
yeah, that was really early on in the night. But
Yeah.
outside of that, we didn't really have too much of an issue. The next point we wanted to talk about was the SAG-AFTRA strike, which has been
Yeah.
approved for the video game industry now. The last time we did have a strike was 2016, I believe. And it was, I think, the longest strike in the SAG-AFTRA history. It went for nearly a year in the video game industry. And from my memory, didn't have the biggest of impacts on the industry. But with what we've seen over the last couple of strikes with the Hollywood ones, this one has me a little bit worried on how
Yeah.
this may impact the industry over the
I mean,
foreseeable future.
this is affecting almost the entire screen entertainment industry. So, and it's really big. I have seen conservative estimates that it might be over by January next year.
The video game
So,
industry one, or as a whole?
well, as a whole, the SAG-AFTRA strike, which
Yeah,
pretty much is, all screen actors.
yeah.
Um,
Only
voice
because
actors,
I know as of last night here in Australia, there was a tentative deal in place,
yeah,
which has to be gone over and agreed to.
yeah.
But
Look, I think there's still going to be a lot of back and forth on this. But who knows? We're not experts in
no,
the film industry, the television industry, or anything like that, or even the video game industry.
we're just a couple of
But
kids with, well, I can't even say kids, a couple of people with opinions.
yeah, exactly. But I think this could potentially be a big deal for the video game industry as well, because obviously now it's showing that actors in video games are showing solidarity with screen actors. So
Yeah,
I can see it affecting the release dates for certain games, because voice acting is, as we know, is something that tends to happen fairly late in the process
yeah,
of developing a video game. Not always super late. Sometimes the music, for example, comes after the dialogue, but it could be that games that are scheduled to be released in 6 months' time do get delayed by this.
yeah. Now, there's not a huge amount of companies that it seems to affect. I did have the list earlier and I forgot to write it down. But it does include Warner Brothers, Disney, Insomniac.
Yeah.
They're the ones I can remember off my head. I think there's about 5 more, maybe, that it would affect. So there are obviously a lot of smaller companies that it may not affect. But you would think, everything trickles down eventually. So
I think the general rule is that the bigger you are and the more money that you make, the more likely you are for the strike to affect you, because really SAG-AFTRA don't care about whether or not you're continuing to work if you're fairly small time. I listened to the Penn Sunday School podcast with Penn Jillette, and he was talking about how Penn and Teller asked the Screen Actors Guild, because they are members of the Screen Actors Guild, whether or not they should be going on strike, and the Screen Actors Guild had no problem with them continuing to do their television show Foolers.
Yeah.
So, and that is the largest magic show on television. So, and has been
Yes.
for a number of years. But even so, it wasn't big time enough for the Screen Actors Guild to care.
The thing that worries
So,
me a little bit, oh, well, not worries me, but it's a bit more of a joking, tongue-in-cheek sort of comment, is that when it comes to the video game industry, are we not just trying to get more money for Kevin Nolan, Troy Baker, and Ashley Johnson?
yeah,
It really seems to be those three that are in everything.
Yeah, that's true. And the whole point of the strike really is supposed to be supporting actors who aren't making enough money.
Yeah.
Not the ones who are making enough money, but
In saying
it's
that,
funny
those guys have worked very hard in their careers to get to where they are.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's funny that all of the voices that you hear surrounding this are people who are already making more than enough money.
But at the same time, they're getting done wrong as well, you know.
Absolutely, they are.
Especially on the Hollywood side of things when you're looking at streaming. And I'm not 100% sure how it works in the video game industry with residuals and all that sort of stuff. So, but look, there's going to be some issues. I think on the video game side, I think it's probably leaning more towards the use of AI than it is about the money side of things. But you know, those contracts need looking at as well. Like we said before, 2016 was the last time that a deal was struck, and I think that was due to run out in 2020. That was then extended to 2022, and then extended again to 2023, and they're currently in talks at the moment for a deal. And if that deal doesn't get done, then obviously they have the right to go on strike. So
we've seen similar things as well, like in the music industry with streaming platforms. Artists are making far less of a cut than they do with record sales. So the changing technology is always going to allow one party to exploit another, and things are always going to happen as long as the technology is changing.
Yeah, well, what was it? It used to be on Spotify when it first started. They used to get 1 cent per play, and now they get like 0.00001 cent per play, which you know, for smaller artists, that's you can't even get a cup of coffee a week on what they're making.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you know, record stores and stuff don't really exist anymore.
You're exactly right. I would recommend people go and check out Bandcamp.
Yep, definitely. Our next point is Resident Evil 4 on iPhone release is going to be full price.
Yeah, this is It just instinctively seems wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the game's been out for a little while now, probably about, 6 months?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it was about around February time it came out.
Yeah, March or something.
Yeah. So, you know, the game's 6 months old. Like, you made the point off air that, you know, they've obviously had to put a lot of work into getting this working on iPhone and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, some of the other games that are coming are older games, and it's like, are we going to be charging full price there as well for a mobile experience?
The work that they've had to put into it is nothing like, I wouldn't have thought, the price difference between buying it on sale on PC or PlayStation or Xbox. You can probably find it pretty cheap sometimes,
Yep.
and they're charging full price for it on iPhone.
I just don't see this being a big selling point for iPhone. I can
No,
see
me neither.
this. I can see this crashing and burning, much like the Google Stadia and things like that. Like, I think for the people that want to play games like that on mobile, they're going to use like remote play, or they'll use maybe Game Pass or something like that. I don't think there's a
Yeah,
market for iPhone to be releasing these games at full price.
I mean, people who are already serious gamers and engage in mobile gaming do that on platforms that are already good for that,
Mm-hmm.
and devices that are already good for that. And there are heaps of good gaming Android devices. Um, I think Apple have an uphill battle here because they have a platform that traditionally doesn't draw in that market, that gamer market, and so all of the people who currently use um, iPhone, yeah, they might do mobile gaming, but it's not that kind of mobile gaming.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we spoke about it on here when it was first announced that these games were coming. That Apple sort of turned their back on gaming years ago and said, "Oh, it'll be a flash in the pan, or it won't be a thing." You know, we're a very professional kind of technology, and now they've seen how much money there is to be made in this industry, and they're now, chasing their own tail, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So, all right, we are going to keep this episode quite short this week because obviously we do have the stream happening in, well, an hour's time, which is, yeah, my nerves are going through the roof. So we thought we'd give you an update on FC24. We gave it a rolling score last week. I think I gave it a 7 and you gave it a 6.
yeah. We settled on 6.5, I think.
Yeah. I'm not budging from that, to be honest. You had a
Yeah, fair
pretty
enough.
you had a pretty bad experience. Well, we both did really on clubs during the week with input lag, which seems to be a big problem on there at the moment in the Australian region.
Yeah, I believe it's network latency, and it does seem to be server side network latency.
Yeah,
I've tested my connection, and no issues. And I looked this up on the EA forums, and it seems like almost everyone in the Oceania region is having this issue,
yeah.
and it's constant network latency. So you end up I don't know what the exact latency is. It feels like it's about half a second. It could be slightly more, and it's just constant. Always what you input with your controller happens on screen half a second to a second later, which is really difficult to play with.
And with my connection that being on satellite, I've had it where it's been nearly 2 seconds.
Right.
There was an instance there the other night where it was really starting to get to me, and I would have been on the screen this far away from the person with the ball. They were turning towards me. I pressed slide tackle as I ran towards them. By the time my bloke went for the slide tackle, they'd turned, passed the ball had been passed again, and they were about 10 metres away from me by the time my bloke actually went in for the slide tackle. Like, I was almost off the screen when it happened. Like, and
And
that's
you just
just
can't
not good.
anticipate that far in advance, you know.
No.
Back in the day, we were used to playing with a little bit more latency than we are now with better connections and
Yeah.
high refresh rate screen and all this kind of stuff. But it was nothing like this kind of latency where it's so bad that you can't even anticipate
No.
what's going to be happening.
Not at all. Now, it does only seem to be in clubs that this is an issue. On the flip side,
I did read rumors that people were having issues in seasons and Ultimate Team as well.
Okay, so I haven't played any of Seasons. I have played a fair bit of Ultimate Team, and that was going to be my next point. Is that for those that don't want to pay crap loads of money, Ultimate Team is unplayable. Absolutely unplayable. I jumped into a battle last night, or into a match last night, and bearing in mind this game is still pre-release, and I came up against a team that was full of Icon players. I'm running out here still with, my Sam Kerr and Haaland that I've got on loan, and the next highest player I've got's like an 82 friggin' Christian Eriksen in the middle of the park.
I don't see how that's fair.
Did score an absolute screamer from outside the box against him, though.
It also begs the question how it's going to be for the people who haven't bought the pre-release, or the people who are going to buy it in a month's time or 3 months' time.
I mean, EA aren't going to care because they're making their money's worth out of it, but
of course they're not. But
I mean, it's frustrating. One thing I have noticed over, I did go and read a couple of other reviews, and they're all sitting around the same mark, about that 7, and everybody's saying the same thing with the passing. You know for a fact you're aiming over here to play a pass, but for some reason it plays over here.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody seems to be having that same issue, so that is one thing EA have to get right and get it done quick. Hopefully it comes in the day 1 patch tomorrow, because that is atrocious. Whether you've got assisted, semi-assisted, or manual, and I've tried all 3, the same thing happens every time.
Yeah, I tried it too. I tried a couple of things on semi-assisted, and they were so bad. It seemed even worse than assisted in some ways, even though I was absolutely certain that there was no issue with my input.
Yeah. Now, my next point takes us over to career mode. Now, there is some buggy things that happen over on career mode when you jump into play the highlights. All your little things that come up in the top corner to say, work on better timing, unlucky, try harder, pass the ball, all that sort of stuff. If you go into highlights, these don't come up properly. They're all spelt wrong. When it comes up unlucky, it'll be NDUNKLIY, something like that. It just looks like gibberish. Big oversight how something like that can get through. My other issue with the highlight play, and this is a big one, it seems like you can never win. You do win the odd game, but I think I told you the other night I was playing in my players career mode, and I had 3 opportunities to score. I scored all 3 of them. It was the 85th minute when I scored the 3rd one. I thought, you beauty, got this one in the bag. Comes up, full-time whistle, 3-3. They scored 3 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time. You miss one opportunity out of, say, it might give you 4. You miss 1. You score 3 goals. You lose the game 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I'm playing with a crap side. I mean, okay, I'm playing with a Sunderland side, but I mean, at the same time, we're in the Championship. They finished in the playoffs last season. They're up there again this year. FIFA's ratings, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, look, I think it's traditionally been an issue. Sim on FIFA. Some years it's fine. Most years they do something that just makes it really unfair. I've had it where I might be 3 or 4 seasons into a manager career mode, have a side stacked full of world class players, and playing against bottom of the table. You put it on sim, and if they're away from home, they lose, and if they're at home, they draw. you know,
Well,
um,
I
it doesn't surprise me at all.
I have noticed with the quick sim that if you go and play a game or two and get good results, you win 2 or 3-0, the quick sim seems to sort of follow that.
Mm.
That is sort of a benchmark of how it plays.
Yeah.
My manager mode, I sort of cheated a little bit. So I created my own club. I called it Ross Creek FC because that's where we're at. And, I made it this massive club with a, £1 billion war chest to play with and put them in League 2.
Right.
In the UK. And sold a ton of their players, brought in a load of kids, brought in Harry Kane, brought in Jude Bellingham, brought in Joe Bellingham. Now, Jude Bellingham, they've set his potential so high. Within 2 seasons on this game, I think I've taken him from, I think he came in at like 86 or 84.
Yeah, I think
something around there. He's now 93 rated.
Yeah.
At the age of 20. Unreal.
Yep.
Now, Joe Bellingham might not be quite as good as his brother. We know this. I might be a little bit biased because I'm a Sunderland fan. But, I've followed Jobe's career since before he was at Sunderland, when he was still at Birmingham as well. And this kid is phenomenal. He's going to be on a similar path to his brother. May not get to the same heights. Or if he does, it might take him a couple of years longer to get there. But this kid's 17, and they've got him rated at 68. And his potential gets him to like 77.
Wow.
I just don't get it. I really
Uh,
don't.
It's quite funny if you go back and look at FIFA games from the last 10 years, and you go through. There are sites that record all of the ratings of all of the players.
Yeah.
Throughout the years, you want to have a look at, say, like FIFA, I don't know, 12 or something, and look at the potential for Harry Kane, for example, and it might be. Maybe 12 is a bad example for Harry Kane. Maybe if you looked at like FIFA 10 or something, and his potential might be, like 65.
Yeah, and he's now one of the best players in the world. Yeah. But it gets frustrating. I think I've got like 45 players in my squad on that game, and they're all kids. I've just been sending them out on like 2-year loans because I won't sign anybody on that game unless they've got a potential of over 90, and if they drop below, unless if they're a goalkeeper, I'll probably keep them if they sit at around 86, 87, 88 as their top potential. But if they drop below that as an outfield player, just release them. And I've got like a bunch of kids that are all like 16, 17 years old that all sit at like about 62 rated at the moment with a potential of 88 to 94. And I've just got so many of them, and I'm trying to get up through the leagues that I've just had to ship them out on loan for a couple of years till I get to the Premier League. Then the players that I've got will be too old. Yeah, here's the kicker though. I just put 3 blokes up for sale. Right? They're all rated in the 90s. One of them was Harry Kane. They're all 29 to 31 in age. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to buy them. And now I've got the problem of playing with one striker up top in a 4-5-1, and I've now got Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. playing in the
Yeah,
championship.
right.
I mean, we are playing Europe. We are playing in Europe. So, you know, we're playing Champions League this year. So, we won the Europa League
Yeah.
last year and we won the FA Cup. So,
Yeah.
the FA Cup gets you Europa, but winning Europa gets you Champions. So,
Yeah.
if you want to see some of that, I'll be streaming it later tonight. Once we've finished with Payday 3. Not that anybody can go see this because I won't edit this till sometime Sunday. But you can go back and watch it on YouTube, or you can go back and watch it on twitch.tv/BrennanHoof. Our next point.
About 3 hours into a 24-hour stream.
Yeah, I'm hoping the markers work properly.
Yeah.
I think on Twitch I'm going to go through and cut them up.
Yep.
Game by game. Or tiredness by tiredness. How close I am to just passing out. I think these lights.
You could do chapters on YouTube, I suppose.
What's that? Sorry.
You do chapters on YouTube.
So I'm hoping these lights keep me awake. I'm hoping standing up is going to keep me awake for some of it. But our next port of call is our bracket. We're up to 2002, and I don't think this was a very
halfway through now, aren't we?
Yeah,
not quite.
I don't think this was a very hard year for us. I think both of our choices were pretty obvious what we were going to pick, even though I haven't told you what it is.
But having said that, it was a great year.
Yeah.
For video games, a huge number of really good video games, both on the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, the PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox,
Game Boy Advance, GameCube.
Yep.
There was so much going on console-wise back then.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we did have, and these are our honourable mentions, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Mortal Kombat's Deadly Alliance, Medal of Honor Frontline, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, Spider-Man the Movie, The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, SOCOM US Navy SEALs. Looks like we're getting a remake or a relaunch of SOCOM. Cannot wait. SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. I think it was Shut Your Mouth, wasn't it? I've put it down as SmackDown 4. So,
Shut Your Mouth. Yeah.
Vice City. The one that I thought I was going to pick originally, till I remembered what else came out this year, and that's Age of Mythology. And then my pick from, I don't know, probably my favourite developer up until recently. And that is Warcraft 3, The Reign of Chaos.
Ooh.
The RTS game. Was a lot of fun. The expansion made it even better. I'm huge on Arthur's story within the lore of Warcraft. My main character on World of Warcraft, Brennan Hoof, is a Death Knight Tauren. Purely for the fact that, you know, the whole thing with Arthur. So I read the book. I went and paid a lot of respect to Invincible's grave over there in Shadow Moon? No, it's not Shadow Moon. Triskel Glades. And I've spent a lot of years chasing that mount as well for this character. So this game holds a lot of a big place in my heart. So your choice.
This was a hard one for me. I was tempted to go with Vice City. I was tempted to go with Sly Cooper, but it had to be one of the two characters in my logo, Ratchet and Clank. So the first Ratchet and Clank game, which among fans of the series is probably still considered the best, or one of those first three games.
Yeah.
You know, it's just fantastic. The world building, the character development, the music, they're all fantastic. And you go back and play them even now, and while the graphics, don't look great, and the controls might feel a little bit clunky. Each planet that you go to, and there are so many of them for a PlayStation 2 game, each planet that you go to just has its own character that is just totally absorbing. And I think that they really managed to do a great job with kind of developing. It wouldn't have been a new genre, but really kind of pushing the limits of what you could do with that genre.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was sort of... I don't know if they were really following suit on from Jak and Daxter, but they were... There was obviously something that Sony wanted in, that sort of two-hero space kind of thing around that time. And obviously went to these two developers and said, what can you give us? And we got Jak and Daxter and, of course, Ratchet and Clank as well. Both your picks for the last 2 years, and both excellent games that will forever live on in PlayStation lore. And obviously we're still getting Ratchet and Clank games to this day, so that shows how popular they are and that game was. So, alright, for now, I think we've kept it as short as we can. That gives me about 40 minutes to go and get ready and work out bits and pieces and blah, make sure everything's working before we jump on and go live with Payday. This is going to be fun.
Hopefully by the time this podcast is released, you'll be able to tell people how much money you raised.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. For those that do watch this, I will put the link in the bio where you can go across and donate, and then we'll put it in next week's episode as well, and we'll put it on everywhere you can find something to do with us and the Switch On Squad. You'll find a link. So don't forget to go jump on.
Really good cause.
Yeah, really good cause. If you see this logo anywhere, make sure you drop it in. But yeah, so don't forget to like, follow and subscribe over on YouTube and everywhere else, all our socials, all of that. Links will be in the bio, and we will see you all next week. Adios.
Later.